We continue now at the top of Daf Yud Zayin Amud Beis in Meseches Bava Metzia. This is Bava Metzia Daf 17b. The Gemara continues a statement from Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan says that when it comes to a Ma'aseh Bezdin, something that's owed through a condition of the court, let's say like the ksuba, so if the person tries to claim parati that I already paid it off, lo amar klum, he hasn't said anything, you're not allowed to claim parati in such a case. My time, and what's the reason? Called Ma'aseh Bezdin command nok et shtara biyadei dami, because anytime you have a Ma'aseh Bezdin, it's as if the person's holding the shtar, so even if they're not holding the shtar, it's as if they are holding a shtar, and therefore the claim of parati is not effective. And the Gemara continues, Amarle Rabbi Chia bar Abba Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Chia bar Abba said to Rabbi Yochanan, V'lo Mishnah seinu hizu, this that you're teaching us, isn't it really a Mishnah? Because the Mishnah says, Hotzia get, let's say a woman takes out her get, Ve'eni mo ksuba, but she doesn't take out with it the ksuba. So the halach is, go v'ksuba, so the halach is that she's able to collect the ksuba. This is exactly that situation. In other words, she does not have the actual ksuba, but since it's a Ma'aseh Bezdin, it's as if she's holding the shtar, and therefore she's able to collect. The Gemara says, Amarle, he said back to him, meaning Rabbi Yochanan responded to Rabbi Chia bar Abba, if I had not lifted up the chaspa, the shard, you wouldn't have found the pearl underneath, meaning it's exactly what the Mishnah is saying, but you would not have realized that that is what the Mishnah is teaching if I would not have taught it. Amar Abaya says, my marganisa, what are we talking about over here about this pearl? Maybe it's not really a pearl, because Dilma b'makom shein kosvim ksuba askina, maybe the Mishnah is talking about a particular situation of an area where they don't write a ksuba. If it's talking about an area where they don't write a ksuba, so then to get hainu ksubas in such a case, the get actually is a ksuba in that case, and that is a situation where really she is taking out the document. Avol b'makom shekosvim ksuba, but maybe in an area, in a location where they do write a ksuba, inikita ksuba gavya, lo gavya. If she's holding the ksuba, then she can collect the ksuba, and if she's not holding it, she cannot collect the ksuba. Maybe we would make a distinction, says Abaya, and really the Mishnah is not a proof to what Rabbi Yochanan said. But the Gemara then continues, Hadar Amar Abaya, then Abaya retracted and he said, Lav milsi di amri, what I said is not true. Because if you think that this Mishnah is talking about in an area where they don't write a ksuba, but in a place where they do write a ksuba, in a kita ksuba gavya, lo gavya, that then only if she's holding a ksuba she collects, but otherwise she does not collect. If that's what you think is true, so then almona min ha'erisin. Let's say you have a woman who is widowed, but she was never actually married. They were only up to the stage of the erisin, the stage of the betrothal. So b'mai gavya, how could she ever collect the ksuba? Now she is able to collect her ksuba, but how could she collect the ksuba? So in such a situation, you have to say that she's able to collect the ksuba, even if it's a place where they normally write a ksuba, but she doesn't have a ksuba, apparently she's able to collect. And if you're going to say be'edei misas baal, if you're going to say that the way that she collects a ksuba in almana min ha'erisin, collects a ksuba with witnesses that say that her husband died, so liton v'leima parati, so let the heir claim that it's already been paid off. I mean, if you're going to say indeed that is the case, they're able to claim it was paid off, and if that was the case, so how would the chachamim have helped with their takana? And so therefore it must be that you cannot make the claim of parati, and so therefore you see that you're able to collect the ksuba even if you don't have the documents. And Rashi explains, b'makom shein kosvin ksuba, we're talking maybe about a place where they don't write a ksuba, elasomchen al tanai bezin v'tivka liolam ad shiyotzi ha-baal shover. In such a situation, we would rely on the tanai bezin should be able to collect unless the baal produces some kind of a receipt that he already paid it. To get shemeid shegirshu mochiach shechayiv hula ksuba, that in such a location, in such an area, we say that the get is the testimony. The fact that he divorced her, that is the proof that he owes her the ksuba. But he lo naked lava, maybe in a place where they write a ksuba, so if she doesn't have it. Lo gavi, she doesn't collect. Maybe we're afraid she's taking it out a second time to collect the second time. Or you could say the reason is because if he wants, he could say he already paid it off. So again, maybe the Mishnah is only talking about a situation of a location where they don't write ksuba. But then the Gemara continued that Abaya said, Lav milsi di amri, it's not true what I'm saying. Again, Abaya had said that in a place where they write the shtar ksuba, so he is able to say parati, he is able to say I paid it off, but that's not true. Because if that were the case, almona min ha'erisin, if you had a widow from the stage of erisin, da'af b'makom shekosvin ein kosvin min ha'erisin, even in areas where you do write a ksuba, but you're not going to write a ksuba at the erisin stage, so b'mai gavya, so how is she collecting ksuba? Al karchach be'edei misas habal, she has to be collecting it through witnesses that say that the husband died, and so therefore you see in such a situation, she is able to collect the ksuba, and there's no claim of parati. And the Gemara continues, Amarle Mark Shisha Bereder Rav Chisda Rav Ashi. Mark Shisha, the son of Rav Chisda, said to Rav Ashi, Va'almona min ha'eris in des l'ksuba. The fact that a widow from the stage of eris, and the fact that she even gets a ksuba, minolan, from where we know that that's the case, that's the assumption over here, that an almona min ha'eris gets the ksuba, and that's again how Abaya determined that you cannot claim parat even in a situation where she's not actually holding the ksuba. But how do we know that she's entitled to the ksuba? The Gemara says, if you're going to say it's from the following Mishnah, the Mishnah says, Nisar Malon Iskarsha, it says if she's widowed or divorced, Bein min ha'erisin uvein min ha'nesuin, whether it's from the erisin stage or whether from it's the nesuin, the marriage stage, Gova es hakol, she collects the entire thing. It certainly sounds like a case of a woman who is widowed from erisin is going to get a ksuba, but that's dil mehecha dekasavla. That's not a proof, because maybe that's talking about in a situation where he happened to write for her ksuba. He happened to write the document. Now, if you're going to say, well, if that's the case, what's the chiddush? It's obvious that she collects in that case. No, it is a chiddush. It could be that it's excluding the position of Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah, Damar Shalo Kasav Law, El Al Manas Lakonsa, because Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah says maybe he wrote it for her, but he only wrote it for on condition that they actually get married. So it would not be effective if they don't actually get married, and so therefore it's trichle, so therefore it's necessary to teach, no, that in such a situation where he wrote her a ksuba, even if they did not eventually get married, even if she's a widow from that stage of erisin, she is going to be entitled. And the Gemara says, Dekanami will bring a proof to this as well, that we're talking here in this Mishnah about a situation where they actually wrote the ksuba. The Katani Goves Hakol, because the language of the Mishnah is she collects everything. That implies that there was a document written and she's getting everything in the documents. If you're going to say correctly that he actually wrote for her the ksuba in this case, Hainu de Katani Goves Hakol, then it would make sense to say the words Goves Hakol, she collects everything. Eloyamr de lo kasavla, but if you're going to say that he did not write it for her, and Rashi explains, Goves Hakol, again, she collects everything, Ben Ksuba Shel Tanai Bezdin, that's whether the standard Ksuba of the Tanai Bezdin, Tahainu Mona Le Almana, which refers to a Mana, 100 dinar for the Almana, Umasayim Le Basula, and 200 dinar for the Basula, Ben Tosefes, whether you're talking about anything that's added in the Ksuba, he can give more to her than the standard amount in the Ksuba, so she collects everything in those situations. The Gemara said, well, if that's the case, what's the Chiddush? Of course she's going to collect everything if she has a Ksuba, and the Gemara then said, well, that's to exclude the position of Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah, because Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah said Shelo Kasav Lo Satosefes, that maybe the only reason that he wrote for the extra money was on the condition that they actually get married, and Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah would say she wouldn't be able to collect that in a situation where they don't actually get married. So that's what the Mishnah is coming to say. It doesn't matter whether they get married or not, she is able to collect the whole thing. And then the Gemara said Dekanami will bring a proof from the language of the Mishnah as well, the V'chasav Lamayri, that we're talking specifically where he actually wrote a ksuba for her, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Yud Ches Amud Aleph.